with the guys in action, Vulcan basketball on ESPN Radio. Joining me now on the hotline, Dime Magazine's John Thompson joining us as we talk a little hoops. John, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today, Josh?
Good. Many thanks for coming on. Be honest with me, were you surprised to see Deron Williams on the move today?
I was very surprised to see Deron Williams, who's I thought that part of the reason that Jerry Sloan left was because there were some issues between the two. Apparently not. I guess the Nets made a power move getting Deron Williams, but I don't know how it's going to work for them. We'll have to see how that works for the Nets out in the future.
It's interesting because when you break down this deal, it actually makes Utah look really good. I mean, yes, you get rid of Deron Williams. Devin Harris is a really good point guard. I actually think he's just as good as Deron Williams, and most people would think I'm wrong there. And Derek Favors, who's going to add a little bit of youth and athleticism into your front court, and you get cash, and you get draft picks, and Deron Williams, who wasn't going to sign for you in 2012 anyway, you actually get something back for him. How do you break down that deal?
I feel the same way you do, Josh. When I saw it, I was like, hey, there's Devin Harris, there's Brooke Lopez, there's Derek Favors, and with Devin Harris, he's played really well in the past, and he's just been stuck with New Jersey and not having many players to play with. So for Devin Harris for Deron Williams, obviously that's not going to be a trade for each other, but throwing in Favors and I just don't even see that making sense for the Nets. But for the Jazz, it definitely makes a lot of sense. They do get some size. They did get the experience with Devin Harris. He's been a great point guard, like I said, in the league for years now. So I don't really know what the Nets were thinking. I think they may be focusing on a summer 2012, clearing up a little cap space, or maybe trying to go after Dwight Howard. Prokhorov, he came here and he thought he was going to make a big splash. Or a couple of days from the trade deadline. He got a great player in Deron Williams, but that's not going to make up too much for that team, I believe.
Here's the interesting thing about it is that Deron Williams can't sign an extension. He's got a year and a half basically left on his deal. Can't sign an extension until at the earliest July, and that could change with the CBA negotiations going on. You make a trade for Deron Williams, but there's no guarantee after the 2011-2012 season, if there is one, that you're going to keep him.
Well, with the team they have now, I don't see them getting very good in the next couple of years. Maybe they'll make the playoffs, but the East is really weak, and we all know that. But I don't see him staying in New Jersey. Especially when you have the Nets, and obviously for the next 5 years or so, I feel like the Knicks are going to be the team here. And then there's going to be New Jersey, Brooklyn Nets. They're coming up, but I don't see Deron Williams. He's a player that he wants to be in the spotlight. He's a top 3 point guard in the league, and he's not going to want to be second best in his own city pretty much his own city.
We're talking with John Thompson, Dime Magazine, joining us here on ESPN Radio and ESPNHawaii.com. Looking at those Knicks, you mentioned the Knicks real briefly there. Now that Carmelo Anthony will be wearing number 7, Chauncey Billups will be in the lineup. The Knicks will be in action tonight against the Milwaukee Bucks. Let's break down their lineup. When you lose guys like Raymond Felton and Danilo Gallinari and Timofey Mozgov, you've still got a core there, but what kind of a lineup can you expect to see from the New York Knicks and how they may play out with their bench?
I feel like we're going to see the type of D'Antoni lineup that we saw, in Phoenix for years, because there isn't much, height, there isn't much, strength inside. Starting tonight it's probably going to be Billups, Landry Fields will probably get to start at 2, Carmelo at 3, and then we got Amari and Ronnie Turioff. In the NBA, Ronnie Turioff is not going to do it for a center. So, the way that D'Antoni dealt with that in Phoenix is just run. And, one of the things that we'll see, I love Billups as a player, and he's played in a fast-paced offense before, but can he play in a good fast-paced D'Antoni offense? And that's something we'll have to see. As far as players coming off the bench, I mean, there's a lot that we'll have to look for coming up here, because a lot of those players haven't really gotten a chance to prove themselves since they've been in the NBA. So that's one thing you have to there's the jury is still out on, and we'll have to see. There's definitely a center on the bench, but like I said, there's players that can step up. Corey Brewer is a decent defender. Sheldon Williams inside. He can't score very well, but he'll be able to try to hold some things down there. Like when he played at Duke, he was very aggressive, very scrappy, and that's great for every team to have. But inside, I don't know how we're going to be able to do that. But if anybody can, if there's any coach that can do that, it will definitely be D'Antoni, because he has dealt with that many years and seen it.
Yeah, you talk about not having a lot of depth inside, but going back to something you mentioned, D'Antoni wants his teams to run, and running kind of lets you get away with not having a really big guy on the floor. That might be one of the pluses of having a Turioff in the lineup, or somebody like a Sheldon Williams.
Exactly, and what we'll probably see some, and I'll be excited to see this, is Melo. I think that he'll play a little bit of 4 in some lineups, and Amari at 5, and that could be a really explosive, quick lineup. But with the speed, with that kind of speed, as far as getting back and playing defense in a half court, set, you're not going to have to, because you are running like that. And if you can control it, if you get to a team. Maybe like, if you're playing a team maybe like the Spurs, they can control that. They can get that under control. But I know a lot of teams can't stop the speed. And now with Melo and the talent he has, in a half-court offense, it's hard to stop Melo. Now think about the shots he's going to have. Think about, him and, Mari. Because Mari, he's fast for a big man. Very versatile, very athletic. And, they'll probably have some fast breaks in those lineups. So, it's going to be something exciting to see for sure.
Let's talk about some other trade scenarios. Trade deadline is tomorrow. We're hearing names thrown out there like Gerald Wallace, and we hear from an NBA source that Gerald Wallace will be on his way to Portland. What other trade scenarios do you possibly see happening as we get toward that trade deadline?
I don't know. I saw Wallace is going to Blazers at first. They were talking about him going possibly to Indiana. I feel like the trade deadline, I don't think we'll see too much. Maybe some small players moved around. Darren Williams is definitely the biggest. Obviously Melo is the biggest, but there's no one going to be close to him or Darren Williams. So I think we're just going to see some small things, people trying to put some pieces together going into the second half of the season, and just trying to get ready for the playoffs.
One of the other names I've heard is Mike Miller. And I just saw this not too long ago. The Heat might actually be shopping Mike Miller, who's had concussion-like symptoms. And that might be an interesting name for a team that needs a sharpshooter outside. Do you think there are suitors for a guy like Mike Miller?
There's definitely people that we're looking for Mike Miller. Let me ask you this. Who are the names that are being thrown out there? Because, I think the Heat obviously need those type of players as well.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I haven't seen offhand. I haven't seen names as far as teams that would be interested. I just heard Mike Miller is being shopped by the Heat.
Okay, yeah. Obviously there's a lot. Every team is going to need. I think every team would look at Mike Miller if they don't have someone to fill that spot, starting or off the bench, because he's done both before. He's put up big numbers on and off the bench. He can shoot from anywhere. But obviously there is problems with the migraines and, injuries that he's had this season. So that's something that teams are probably have thought about. But I guess my question would be, who are the Heat trying to get in place of Mike Miller? They obviously we saw in the first 20 games or so there was a lot of issues in chemistry. So now Mike Miller came back. He's in the lineup. So they're going to shake up the chemistry again going in the second half. I guess we'll see what happens when the trade deadline is coming up.
And I guess the other question would be, if you throw Mike Miller out there, is that, okay, you're not a deep team to begin with if you're Miami. I mean, what are you trying to make room for, and what are you trying to get out of it? Are you trying to plan for maybe next year or the year down the road by making a trade to maybe free up some room for yourself?
Pat Riley, he's a genius, obviously. I mean, you never know what he's thinking. You never know what he was doing in the previous 2 or 3 years before, getting the big three down there. So he's definitely got something up his sleeve. It's something he's trying to get accomplished, and that's definitely a possibility because, he'd obviously have a great chance to win a championship this year, but, they have the big three there for many years to come. So, if they don't win this year, maybe he is preparing for, next year, the year after, when the Heat are going to be even more poised to, go to the finals and win a championship.
John Thompson, Dime Magazine. Check out their work online as well. John, many thanks for coming out. We'll talk to you down the road.
Oh, no problem. Thank you, Josh. Check us out, dimemag.com. We have a great blog. We'll have some stuff on the Knicks. They play tonight at 7:30 against the Bucks. So, we'll have stuff covering the trades, the recent trades, as well as, just everyday stuff that goes on in basketball, college, pros, and whatever. They're all over the trade deadline, too, so make sure you check them out. John, thank you. Oh, thank you, Josh. It was great speaking to you.
All right, same here. John Thompson, Dime Magazine, joining us here on ESPN Radio and ESPNHawaii.com. 11:41, we'll talk